Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Cooking in Quarantine with me, Benjamin Rosas. This morning we're gonna just do some eggs a few different ways. So you're probably stuck at home, maybe gotta make breakfast for the kiddos or your partner, or looking for that kind of restaurant style, Overeasy, scrambled, and poached. So we're just gonna do those one at a time. Alright. So I like to crack the egg on a flat surface rather than on the edge of a pan. The edge of a pan is going to drive shell up into the egg and make it more of a mess, more likely to break the yolk. But if you smack it on a nice flat surface, you might get a nicer, cleaner kind of crack. There. Another thing I like to do is crack eggs into a bowl ahead of time. It doesn't hurt to let them warm up just a little bit before cooking them. They're less likely to stick, especially if you're frying, if they are more close to room temperature than freezing cold right out of the refrigerator. So that one broke a little bit. That'll be our scrambled. And good. Okay, so first we'll do Overeasy. I'm going to use this fry pan. It's a non-stick egg pan, kind of typical. This one is Swiss Diamond, so it's a bit nicer than some of your aluminum Teflon coated pans out there, but anything that's kind of generally non-stick or nicely seasoned should work. But these edges make it a good shape to do the flip. If you're gonna flip, if you're nervous about flipping something, you can practice with just about anything dry and just sort of get used to that wrist action. You want to hook the pan horizontally, not throw it up in the air or really move it vertically, hardly at all. Maybe just the tiniest little vertical nudge, but really it's a horizontal action. And when the egg hits the edge of that pan, the curve will naturally cause it to flip over. Great. I cook my eggs with just a tad of oil and a tad of butter. Use whatever fat you prefer. Just let that heat up. Alright, as you can see, the butter is melting. I put the pan on almost all the way high, 8, 7, that range. Obviously everyone's stove is a little different, but you probably don't want it on the highest setting. It doesn't take much temperature to cook an egg. I mean, eggs probably cook, never mind. What I'm looking for is the butter to have completely melted and sort of foamed a little bit, and for the foaming to die down slightly. That basically just means that the water has sort of bubbled out of the butter and it's hot and ready. You always want to, when you're frying something, put the food into a hot pan with hot oil generally, so that it immediately hits that surface and creates a blanket or a layer of steam and sizzle in between the pan and the food that's going to help with the non-stick. If you put cold protein into a cold pan and then turn on the heat, you're almost going to guarantee that it's going to get stuck in that pan. But a hot layer of oil and the food hits it, and it's going to just immediately, you should hear a sound, and that sizzle is creating that layer of air. So here we go. One egg in. I'm actually going to turn it down to medium at this point. It doesn't take long to make an Overeasy egg. The difference between Overeasy, over medium, and over hard is how long it stays in the pan after you flip it. But they're all basically ready to flip, something like 30 seconds to 90 seconds after they start to fry. I mean, this is already starting to come together. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it. I like to make sure that it's moving around in the pan. That we've got a nice lubrication, nice non-stick situation going on. There. Didn't quite flip over. Let me try a little harder. There we go. So if it's over easy, you're done. You basically just take it off, and even just sitting in this pan here, it's going to come up to kind of an over medium if I don't get it off of the heat pretty quickly. There we go. Right. Now, for a poached egg, you want a small pot of water to bring to a boil. You don't need much water, and obviously enough to cover the eggs, a couple, 2-3 inches. Put that on high, and the other thing you want to add to the water is a little bit of salt and a little bit of acid. Lemon juice works. I like white wine vinegar because it's pretty neutral, just like a teaspoon. It doesn't matter too much, but if there's a lot, you don't want to taste the vinegar at all. You just need a little acid in that water because it helps coagulate the protein and keep the poached egg, keep its shape together. So, I do about a capful of white vinegar. And I'm going to cover that up, let it boil. Or at least come up to simmer temperature. Okay, so that's had some time to come up to basically a simmer. I'm just using this as a lid, I'm not using a double boiler. You can see, you know, simmer. There's little bubbles, but it's not boiling. I'm actually going to turn it off. You don't want to boil the poached egg, it'll make a mess, right? You want the poached egg to hopefully maintain a nice shape and not to overcook. So you just want the water to be kind of at simmer temperature, whatever, that's 200 or 190 or something Fahrenheit. And I put the egg in a little bowl. You don't want to drop the egg from any height into the water either, because it'll spread out more. You want to kind of keep it together. I like to have it in a little dish like this and just sort of let it gently into the water. And once it's in, I optionally put a lid back on, and you can just kind of set it aside. You can put, you know, 4, 5, 6 eggs in there and just set it aside for about 10 or 12 minutes, depending on how well done you want the yolk. And just check on it a little bit, maybe even poke it a little bit very gently to see if the yolk is getting hard or not, and pull it out with a slotted spoon, call it done. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside and talk about scrambling eggs, which is pretty easy. It's probably the easiest, of course, because you don't have to worry about the integrity of the yolk. It felt weird to scramble 1 egg, so I'm going to scramble 2. There we go. Now, I usually just mix it with a fork. It's good to get them nice and whipped up ahead of time. And I always throw a little bit of seasoning into the eggs before I cook, like a little salt and pepper. Optionally, some paprika or a little bit of herbs if you have dry herbs you want to use. I just like a little salt and pepper. And very similar to frying the egg, got my nonstick pan, got a little bit of oil. There's like enough oil left from the fried egg that I'm just going to use that. I don't even need to add more. It's a little less crucial to have that thorough non-stick surface under the scrambled eggs because you're not flipping it, you're not doing the delicate fried egg over easy flip. So I'm a little bit less, a little bit more stingy with the amount of fat I put in the pan for scrambled eggs. Because also with the fried egg, you're not going to eat all the fat that's in the pan. You're going to take the egg out and there's some fat left behind. But with the scrambled egg, pretty much whatever butter or oil is in the pan is going to be incorporated into the scramble. So you know, if you're conscientious about 1 tablespoon of butter and oil versus a teaspoon in your, you know, calorie intake, something to take into account. Great. So that's probably hot enough. I just pour it in. Scrambling a couple of eggs should take no time at all. I think a mistake a lot of people make is they cook their scrambled eggs for too long. So if the pan is warm and you've got a wooden spoon or rubber spatula or something, you just get right in there and start, you know, scrambling. You can see it's really coming together already. What's that been, 5 seconds, 10 seconds? And that's it. As soon as it's basically coming together, so there's no more liquid dripping across the pan, you can pull it off the heat. There's enough steam and heat in here that it's gonna finish cooking all on its own in the next 10 to 20 seconds, and that's already done. If I left it on any longer, what would happen is the eggs would just start to dry out. So I like, you know, sometimes we call it wet, but scrambled eggs that still have moisture in them, have a little bounce, and aren't all dried out like the old dried eggs on the buffet line. This is a nice fresh scramble, very good. I guess I'm eating lots of eggs for breakfast today. Let's check on our poached egg. I don't even know how long it's been, but I'm looking at it and it looks white with a nice white layer over the yolk. It's all together in one cohesive piece. I'm just gonna kind of touch it gently and see if the yolk feels firm. It's pretty soft. So I'm gonna leave that for 4 more minutes. Okay, let's take another look. Yeah, it's getting a little more firm, so I'm gonna take my chances. If it's too raw, it might not hold together when you pull it out and slip through the slotted spoon or just sort of make a mess. You know, just throw it out, start over, try again. You'll get it. The most important thing with a poached egg is patience. Just enough patience. You don't want to leave it in there forever and let it get all hard, but usually it's longer than you think. So there it is, a nice poached egg. You could imagine that right on top of an English muffin. Great. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. See you soon.